Tonight, new rules to save lives. The road safety overhaul targeting P-plate drivers in memory of a teenage crash victim. Crash chaos. A car towing a Swan River mooring leaves a trail of destruction along a Bicton street. Labor's historic defeat in Queensland as voters fire a warning shot to the Albanese government. A spotlight on the RBA, the governor's eye-watering salary laid bare as households struggle to make ends meet. And the mobile phone shutting down within hours, what you need to know.
This is 9 News Perth with Tracy Ver.
Good evening. Young WA drivers will be banned from having more than one passenger in their first 6 months behind the wheel under a major driving overhaul. The new road rules, known as Tom's Law, in memory of a 15-year-old killed by a P-plate driver.
A heartbroken mother doing what no parent should have to, going public with her plea in honour of her son. 5 days later and the government has acted, restricting red P-platers to just one passenger in their car.
We know that by having this today, young drivers will have that first 6 months with less distractions, which will make them a better driver for life.
It'll be called Tom's Law, in honour of Tom Safiotti. He was killed when the car he was a passenger in, being driven by a P-plater, slammed into a tree in 2021. He was just 15. Tom's mother, Samantha Safiotti, thanking the government, saying, "This is a step towards preventing passenger-related deaths and injuries and keeping our kids safe."
We can't replace the young lives that are lost. We can't prevent the trauma and heartache of the families who have lost young people on our roads, but we can put in place laws.
P-platers caught breaking those laws will face $200 fines and 2 demerit points. 17 to 19-year-olds have the highest rate of injury and death on our roads. Not everyone's getting the message.
There is frustration out there because people don't think this message belongs to them. They don't own it. It belongs to someone else out there. It absolutely belongs to every motorist.
The things that kill people on our roads are mostly about personal responsibility.
These new laws have been under consideration since the Liberal government was in power almost a decade ago. It took WA's highest road toll since 2016 and a mother's plea to finally prompt change. Labor's now pushing to pass legislation by December, just before the busiest time on our roads. Conor McGovern, 9 News.
There's been a bizarre crash in our southern suburbs. 2 men taking a mooring from the Swan River on a joyride. The boy wiping out everything in its path, crashing into cars and a power pole.
A late-night stunt that ended like this. A light pole taken out, a trail of destruction left behind. 9 News understands 2 men stole a mooring from this Bicton jetty just before midnight, tying it to the back of a Land Cruiser and towing it up the road. Police say the boys swung as the vehicle turned the corner of Kent Street, striking Jeremiah's car.
It could have been worse. My mate's car was parked behind there. If it wasn't a Land Cruiser, it would have been buggered.
The mooring then wrapping around a light pole, ripping it from the ground, causing the car to tip along Point Walter Road. Mussels scattered down the street.
There was carnage, stuff all over the road.
Got a few chilly mussels.
A man in his 60s trapped inside, taken to hospital for a checkup. Witnesses say another man took off down the street.
The neighbour, a couple of houses down, said that he saw a guy in a white T-shirt running down towards the reserve.
Locals say the boy had been tied here at Blackwall Reach Parade for a few weeks. There's no damage to the jetty and no clear reason why the pair would have taken it.
It's an unusual one. I've not seen a shipping boy towed behind a vehicle before.
Not really sure why you'd want to steal a boy, but yeah, they obviously didn't want the boy intact.
Sarah Smith, 9 News.
Western Australians on 6-figure incomes are increasingly turning to social services for support as we battle a cost of living crisis. New figures revealing medium to high income households aren't immune to hardship, with more than 30,000 reaching out for emergency relief in the past year.
Families at breaking point, reaching a new low.
It's a constant battle, and I know what that feels like.
Single mothers, the hardest hit, including Kylie Wilson, a mum of 3 who was forced to ask for help on her birthday.
I actually haven't paid rent in the previous fortnight, and I can't buy a cake for my Sunday birthday with my kids. So that was the rock bottom. I was distraught. I was absolutely a mess.
Today, a new report by the Financial Wellbeing Collective revealing no one's immune.
A new emergence of families who are on double incomes in some cases, really starting to struggle.
Of the collective's 29,000 clients, hardship is becoming more widespread, with an almost 200% increase in 6-figure income households turning to financial advisors for help over the past 3 years, while the number of people reaching out for emergency relief jumped 50%. And last year alone, there were more than 36,000 calls to agencies for assistance.
We're looking at all measures, and as you know, nothing is off the table.
This is not just a government problem. This is something that we all need to have a role in finding the solution.
In the past 2 years, we've seen 13 interest rate hikes, with the average monthly mortgage repayment up $1,200. Throw in the rise in rent, insurance and everyday groceries, it's no surprise so many are struggling, no matter their income.
The numbers are getting worse, and I don't think this is something that's going to go away unless we have some intervention.
Brooke Comerford, 9 News.
The Liberal National Party has ended nearly a decade of Labor rule in Queensland, with Premier Stephen Miles conceding defeat. It was a tighter contest than expected, but Labor's loss in the state election has sent a warning to the federal government.
A new state leader pointing to a new chapter.
They have voted for a fresh start.
The ballot box count not only marking change for Queensland, but Australia.
That isn't just a Queensland problem, it's a national problem. As a warning sign to Labor that it needs to start working out how to actually appeal to these communities.
A blue wave breaking through Labor's sea of red across the country. Starting in the Northern Territory in August, the country Liberal Party shattering Territory Labor, and now Queensland, the LNP ending Labor's 9-year reign.
That's a big effort, that's a big swing.
The outcome was much better for Queensland Labor than what was anticipated just weeks ago, let alone months ago.
The Prime Minister not celebrating a win, but culture today.
Best Prime Minister in a generation.
Good on you, mate.
Good on you.
Thank you
Good
so
on
much.
You.
Embraced by some, but not all. As Anthony Albanese dished out sweet treats in Sydney.
Ice cream's on elbow.
And a serve to the Greens, who have suffered a swing against them.
I think there's a big message in this result for Adam Bandt.
Queensland voters have sent a clear message to Labor, and it's one the federal government will be keeping a close eye on less than 6 months out from the next election. The PM phoning the now Premier with a message of congratulations.
We have a big job to do, both in terms of our bilateral relationship, but also through the National Cabinet.
I look forward to working with him, as I look forward to working with Opposition Leader Peter Dutton.
Claudia Verdonjak, 9 News.
Meanwhile, despite Queensland Labor's defeat, Premier Roger Cook has hinted at taking on one of their policies, not ruling out a free lunch program for WA schools. Former Queensland Premier Stephen Miles recently announced the cost of living sweetener in the lead-up to the election.
Nothing is off the table. We already have an extensive school breakfast campaign, and we look to every opportunity to continue to make sure we support our kids in the schools.
WA will head to the polls on March 8 next year. She's received a salary increase greater than the total paycheck of many struggling workers, making RBA boss Michelle Bullock one of the highest paid central bankers in the world. That's after warning some struggling taxpayers they may have to sell their homes to stay afloat.
It's a tough job, but getting a massive pay rise to do it in this economy is also a tough sell.
Part of the reason for the RBA's large pay rise is because of the very high inflation rate that the RBA has failed to keep down. And so I don't see how at all an RBA governor should be rewarded for failed efforts.
That governor, Michelle Bullock, recently explained why interest rates needed to stay high, even though it was hurting some borrowers much more than others. Their options, as she saw them, hard to swallow.
This includes things like cutting back on their spending to the more essential items,
trading down to lower quality goods and services, dipping into their savings or working extra hours. And some may ultimately have to make the very difficult choice to sell their home.
All not helped by revelations that she earned $811,000 for her first 9 months, suggesting a yearly base salary of $1,080,000, $106,000 more than predecessor Philip Lowe. Based on tax office data, the median annual salary for a primary school teacher is $80,000, a midwife around $75,000, senior police detective $123,000, even neurosurgeons earn less at $462,000. And by comparison, the central banker for the world's largest economy, US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, only earns the equivalent of around $290,000 Australian dollars. Essential workers are also struggling to win even a third of the pay increases of the governor and her predecessor. This is the same RBA whose then governor told Australians they shouldn't expect a rate rise until this year, only for them to go up 13 times from May 2022. Putting the spotlight on the institution itself.
The consequences of the RBA's mistakes have been very harsh for many Australians who trusted them, trusted that they wouldn't raise interest rates.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
The driver of an out-of-control truck that killed an elderly couple in country Victoria on Friday has been released by police. The 70-year-old man remains in hospital as officers continue their investigation into what caused his vehicle to travel hundreds of metres off the highway before smashing into a house and killing Jim and Carmel Madden, who were inside. The Iranian president has confirmed 4 of his country's soldiers were killed when Israel unleashed a wave of retaliatory airstrikes. After offering his condolences to the families of the dead, the leader warned Iran's enemies that it will answer any stupidity with strategy.
The strikes on Iran were precise and they were deadly. This, one of the sites hit by the Israeli Air Force, which went after air defence systems and missile facilities, including in the capital Tehran. Iran downplaying the attacks as limited, but later confirmed at least 4 Iranian soldiers were killed and declared it's entitled and obliged to defend itself. This footage released by the IDF claiming to show its fighter pilots preparing for the middle-of-the-night attack.
We can get anywhere in the Middle East. There is no target behind our reach. What they saw last night was a small test, an example from our abilities.
A calculated response to Iran's missile barrage at the start of the month, but not the escalation many feared. Nuclear and oil facilities were spared.
It looks like they didn't hit anything other than military targets. My hope is this is the end.
But few believe it is. Iranian proxy group Hezbollah has condemned Israel's actions as it continues to come under heavy fire in Lebanon and send rockets across the border, more than 200 in the past day. In Gaza, days of military action at the Kamal Adwan hospital appear to have ended. Israeli troops withdrawing with detainees. This area in northern Gaza and the broader region may be catching its breath, if only for a moment. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Pro-Palestine protesters have been stopped by police in an anti-Semitism rally in Perth. Officers issued move-on notices to part of the group as hundreds gathered on the steps of Parliament House.
Racial hatred and anti-Semitism is not a political issue, it's a moral issue.
We will not tolerate in Western Australia inciting of violence against other Western Australians.
The Never Again Is Now rally hopes to put a stop to harassment and discrimination against Jewish Australians. Former First Lady Michelle Obama today joined Kamala Harris on the campaign trail as the US election enters its final stretch. The Vice President and rival Donald Trump are both chasing the undecided in Michigan, where early voting is underway.
For all the unknowns of an election campaign, there's always a stop at the bar. Today on the trail, a tale of 2 cities in one important battleground state.
We win Michigan, we win the whole deal.
This presidential race is closer than any in recent history. And here in Michigan, a state with a large Arab American population, the war in Gaza could have a profound impact.
We as Muslims stand with President Trump
because he promises peace.
Future. And we understand the opportunity we have on the topic of Gaza. We must end that war.
In Kalamazoo,
or should I say Kamalazoo,
the former First Lady joining the trail to support Kamala Harris becoming the first woman to win the White House.
We can't just sit around and complain. No, we've got to do something.
And make no mistake, we will win.
For the Democrats, Michelle Obama brings serious popularity, but she's also an effective messenger who could mobilise voters at a time when every vote counts.
A lot of people respect her, even some marginal Republicans, so there's a few out there that I think could be persuaded.
I have such fear of the alternative. The choice is so obvious for me.
Little more than a week to go, and tonight the president who passed the baton delivered a scathing assessment of the man he beat 4 years ago.
He's a loser as a candidate. And more importantly, in my view, and I'm just going to say it straight up, he's a loser as a man.
In Kalamazoo, Michigan, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
A stunning spring Sunday in Perth, and Natalia Cooper, a warm week ahead.
Yes, Tracy, good evening to you. We didn't quite hit our forecast maximum today, but temperatures are on the rise. After a low overnight of 13.5 degrees, we climbed to a top of 26.2 around 1:15 this afternoon. PS made it to a warm 28.4, the Swan Valley and the airport 27.9. It was cooler on the coast, 25, the top at Swanbourne. The Pilbara is feeling the heat. It hit 44.3 degrees in Port Hedland today. They've now had 2 days in a row over 44 degrees. A trough will develop down the west coast tomorrow, causing temperatures to climb here in Perth. How hot will it get this week? Well, your full forecast is coming up, Trace.
Bit of summer in spring. All right, Natalia, we'll see you soon. Thank you. In the news ahead, more details emerge from a deadly plane crash on our east coast. Next, the seasoned Qantas pilot identified as one of the victims. The multi-million-dollar visitor centre coming to Perth train station, how it will change our tourism experience. Also ahead, the Prime Minister under fire, accused of claiming free airline upgrades. And never-before-seen photos of Princess Diana and Prince William released by the royal family. Perth train station will be home to a $1.3 million visitor centre by mid-next year. These are artists' impressions of what it'll look like inside, replacing the existing centre on William Street, which receives around 60,000 inquiries a year. The Tourism Council today welcoming the move, expecting an increase in foot traffic and an easier option for travellers flying in.
Particularly for our interstate guests flying in to Perth Airport, catching the rail tunnel direct to Perth Station. They can go into their accommodation, but they can drop into the visitor centre, and that's their first welcome into WA.
Visitor centres in WA directly generate an estimated $261 million into the economy each year. The family of a Qantas pilot killed when 2 planes collided in Sydney's southwest say their loss is immeasurable. The 72-year-old, one of 3 people to lose their lives. Investigators today combing the crash site, spanning 1 kilometre.
Gary Criddle, an aviation aficionado with over 50 years' experience, working as a pilot for the Navy and Air Force before 3 decades of flying with Qantas, where he met his wife, Sue, a flight attendant.
I don't know that my last flight for an airline will be my last flight. I love flying. It's fabulous.
The 72-year-old was instructing a 29-year-old pilot inside a Cessna travelling from the Hunter to Wollongong around midday yesterday when it collided with another light plane over Bulimbla Park in the Macarthur region. Gary and his pilot were both killed, as was 60-year-old Kadiavali Gagaturu, who had flown out of an airport nearby at the Oaks. Gary's family remembering him as full of fun, laughter and generosity, saying his loss is immeasurable and he will be deeply missed. His son Jeff telling 9 News, "I just want the world to know the amazing man he was." Qantas also paying tribute, calling Captain Gary a highly respected and loved member of the team. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau took over the investigation today.
looking for any recorded information we can, anything that was on the planes that'll give us a better idea of what occurred.
The ATSB also looking into the history of both aircraft, a Jabiru matching the model and serial number of Mr Gagaturu's plane involved in a crash with a previous owner in 2022.
We will look at the history of both those aircraft.
This marks the 7th mid-air collision in Australia over the past 5 years. The investigation focusing on whether both planes were using the correct communication protocols.
This is what's known as Class G or non-controlled airspace. It is very much up to pilots. It's an alerted see and avoid principle.
Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
The Prime Minister has hit back at criticism over his relationship with former Qantas boss Alan Joyce after revelations he was given at least 22 free flight upgrades worth tens of thousands of dollars.
From time to time, members of Parliament receive upgrades. What's important is that they are declared. All of mine have been declared.
Anthony Albanese confirmed 10 flights were paid for by the Australian Labor Party. At least 9 people have died across Ukraine after a series of Russian attacks. Major cities were hit, including Kyiv and Kherson, the deadliest assault striking the central city of Dnipro. 5 people died there, including a child. It prompted President Zelensky to renew his appeal to Ukraine's allies, asking them to put pressure on Russia to stop the escalation of war. Rallying in support of the far right, this march through London was supposed to feature a speech by ultra-conservative figure Tommy Robinson, but his arrest this week meant his followers had to carry on without him. Close by, thousands of others mounted a counter-protest demonstrating against racism. King Charles will resume his regular overseas schedule next year after his successful trip down under. Buckingham Palace shared that the royals genuinely thrived in Australia, describing the visit as the perfect tonic after many months of cancer treatment. The King and Queen also sent a personal message to host nations, Australia and Samoa, thanking them for the countless fond memories. She was the most photographed woman in the world, but some special images have been kept private until today. Prince William sharing several unseen photos of Princess Diana from a 1993 visit to a homeless shelter.
My mother went about her usual part of making everyone feel relaxed and having a laugh and joking with everyone. I remember at the time kind of thinking, well, if everyone's not got a home, they're all going to be really sad. But it was incredible how happy an environment it was.
The Prince is appearing in an upcoming documentary on homelessness. They're some of the most celebrated actors in the world, but today Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro took supporting roles, rallying behind Kamala Harris.
A Hollywood heartthrob in a brand new role.
What's up, Philly?
Leonardo DiCaprio endorsing a new leading lady.
The choice could not be clearer, and that choice is Vice President Kamala Harris.
The climate change activist hardly warming to Donald Trump.
They're trying to quiet your voice.
DiCaprio appeared alongside fellow A-lister and friend Robert De Niro.
It makes me so angry that we're here talking about a piece of like Donald Trump.
The 81-year-old has long disliked the former president.
Let him die in a jail cell.
This Tinseltown double act almost too much for the locals.
Leonardo DiCaprio, my heart's beating out of my chest.
Yet more star power out in support for Kamala Harris had this Democratic crowd on their feet and in raptures. But with 10 days to go, particularly here in this crucial state of Pennsylvania, they know there is plenty more work to be done yet. What if Donald Trump becomes president?
Right now, I'm laser focused on turning out to vote for Philadelphia to ensure that that question you asked in no way, shape, or form becomes a reality.
Because over the next 10 days, we'll decide the direction of this country, and it is all in our hands.
In Philadelphia, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Pounding the pavement for a good cause. Coming up, hundreds turn out in Burswood to support families of premature and sick babies. Also ahead, the virtual reality training tool recreating scenes of real-life emergencies. Shock as a car slams into a busy bakery, pinning a customer in the wreckage. And later, the staggering amount of money Aussie music lovers are losing to ticket scams, the new way to protect yourself from dodgy deals. WA families have honoured thousands of babies today who were born sick and too soon. Hundreds turning out for the annual Walk for Prems at Burswood Park, raising money and paying tribute to little ones who didn't survive.
Baby Cody came without warning, 14 weeks early and very unwell.
I was too scared to ask the question, is he okay, is he breathing, because I didn't want to get no as my answer.
After 101 days in King Edward Hospital, battling brain bleeds, sepsis and meningitis, this was the moment he was finally united with his Rockingham family.
Looking at other people's stories, that's what helped us most, because it kind of gives you a lot of hope.
Just 5 weeks on, Cody's family has joined the Walk for Prems, raising awareness of the 1 in 10 babies born prematurely.
It gives families an opportunity to connect with other families that have gone through a similar experience.
The event at Burswood Park today began with a tribute to the sick babies who didn't survive. And then a countdown.
3, 2, 1, go!
More than 400 people on an hour-long trek for a never-ending issue.
This is the 99th ever Walk for Prems. In the event's 15-year history, more than 42,000 people have participated, walking more than 200,000 kilometres.
$4.6 million has been raised for Life's Little Treasure Foundation, providing essential resources to parents of premature babies. But this year, donations have halved.
Definitely do it, because you never know if it's going to happen to you or someone that you know. Him coming at 26 weeks was the last thing we ever expected.
Bianca Carboni, 9 News.
An out-of-control car has ploughed through the front window of a busy Adelaide bakery, pinning a customer against the front counter. The victim was a 62-year-old grandmother who was ordering her Sunday morning coffee. Tonight she's in hospital with serious injuries.
The bakery swarming with emergency services around 11 a.m. after a car ploughed through the front window.
It was like an explosion. It came in and I thought the coffee machine had blown up or something, because it was just, and then the whoosh of glass blasted through.
A customer had been standing at this counter ordering her morning brew and ended up pinned between the car's bonnet and the coffee machine. 62-year-old grandmother Leanne, now in hospital with serious injuries to her legs and foot.
Staff got out of the way, thank goodness that they were safe, but this poor lady and the driver of the car, obviously they were hurt.
The 69-year-old woman behind the wheel also taken to hospital.
Witnesses say the driver was pulling out from the Goolwa shopping centre car park when she accelerated across 2 lanes of traffic and into the bakery.
I was sitting on the other side of the window, half a metre away from the car in the entrance.
Another gentleman was waiting. He got showered in glass, so he had a few cuts. Could have been so much worse. This morning we had people in early. We had people lined up all in front of the counter, so we could have had people sitting out the front. So it's a miracle that no one was more hurt.
The bakery will be closed for several days as the clean-up continues. Inga Nielsen, 9 News.
From war zones to shopping centres, a virtual reality tool is recreating the scenes of real emergencies to help train the military and police for worst-case scenarios. The technology is going global, with the Australian company behind it landing a multi-million-dollar deal with the US Defence Force.
This is not a game.
Door left. Door left.
The guns are real, the adrenaline pumping.
Don't move, don't move. Got a hostage. Don't move, stay down, stay down.
Wayne Jones and Will Beaumont served together with the SAS in Afghanistan.
I'm going to push through, go around to the right. On.
Now all the action they see is virtual through their system, Operator XR.
Your heart's beating, you're sweating, it's confusing, it's dark.
An immersive training tool for military and police.
As threats evolve, so should your training.
Here, an exercise to take down an active shooter and rescue a hostage.
The goal of that is to really expose them to things that are difficult to replicate in the real world.
A little bit nerve-wracking.
Felt very real. The feel of the gun, the feedback and the recoil as well.
It allows users to train with their own weapons, mounted with VR sensors. Instead of ammunition, this M4 assault rifle is loaded with CO2. More safe and simple than live training.
It's very low risk to do and, it takes a few minutes.
Creating virtual replicas of real locations for repeat drills.
Airport security, key infrastructure, embassies, train stations.
The WA Police Force uses it to train recruits, but their prime market is the United States.
Ranging from state police departments, federal agencies, county sheriffs, and now the US military.
And the Aussie startup is not alone. Drone Shield, another player going global, selling to allied nations, including Ukraine.
Thanks to this anti-drone gun, the soldier says, we've managed to tackle the drone.
A growing industry, albeit controversial.
Weapons drawn and discharged.
It's difficult to get a clear picture of Australia's defence exports. The government is secretive about exactly what is sold to whom. But last financial year, it came to a total of more than $100 billion. Homegrown and now harnessed by world powers. Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
An Aussie native on the hop, police in the US state of Colorado were called out to chase down a runaway roo. After a short pursuit, they managed to scoop up the kangaroo and take it home. Scammers flooding the market with fake concert tickets. Next, a new way to protect fans from dodgy deals as more artists head down under. Plus, the 3G mobile network in its final hours, what you need to know ahead of tomorrow's shutdown. But Bonnie Raynor is here with sport now. Bonnie, a potential test opening for a WA star.
Yeah, Trace, but not the batter we're expecting as Inglis looks to force his way in. Could Josh jump Bancroft in the race to the test team? The coach weighs in. The Scorchers produce a stuttering start to their WBBL season, and the Concrete Canyon causes chaos in the opening minute of the Gold Coast 500. WA wicketkeeper batter Josh Inglis says he's ready to fill the vacant test opener position if called upon by Andrew McDonald. The Aussie coach today revealing selectors are considering middle order options as Inglis enjoys a prolific red ball run.
In form and potentially in demand.
2 centuries in 2 matches for Josh Inglis. Magnificent start to the season.
Alex Carey is set to hold down the test keeper spot for the Australian summer, but Josh Inglis's route to the side could be fast-tracked with the vacant opener spot. The coach admitting he isn't against shuffling the order.
Historically across Australian cricket, we've had some great success in elevating middle order players, namely Simon Kadich, Shane Watson, depending on the circumstances that present.
Speaking at today's Scorchers Fan Day, Inglis declaring he's open to anything.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say no. I'm not looking to be an opening batsman in Test cricket. If the opportunity came, I'd do it. But yeah, look, I'm just focusing on my cricket, what I can do.
Citing consistency is the key for his current purple patch.
It's just hard work and continuing that, and just being really just sticking to my routines really, and not getting complacent with starting well and sort of letting that form go. So it's just been trying to repeat that, and thankfully it's going okay at the minute.
The 29-year-old admitting his recent investment into his mental game has paid dividends.
I think it's more the mental side and with my routines and just really sticking to that. I did a bit of the work with the site from CA before the season started, and just around that sort of mental stuff. So it's been nice to sort of put that into practice and get some scores.
Inglis will take the gloves for Australia's upcoming ODI series against Pakistan and is confident his Shield form can translate to international runs.
I think it's the tempo, finding the right tempo. For 50 over cricket, it's obviously different to Shield cricket and T20s, so it's finding that, and then I guess it's just playing the situation of the game.
Joel Sarantzis, 9 News.
It's been a shaky start to the Scorchers' WBBL season. The Stars sending the hosts into bat with Beth Mooney's 31 leading the charge until Sophie Day came on and drew an immediate impact.
Oh, Boulder!
Tottenham last year starts with the big wicket of Beth Mooney this year of her second delivery.
Day picking up 2 wickets in her first over, Perth reaching 5 for 87 in the 15th over a short time ago. New Zealand has won the Constellation Cup for just the 3rd time in history, smashing the Diamonds in Game 3 here in Perth by 18 goals. The Aussies left to rue costly mistakes in the blowout defeat.
The coach is on her feet. The black is back.
Turnovers and silly errors that we're making across the court, to be honest. And once you lose one, it becomes 2 and 3, and a team like Ferns can really punish you.
It's the first time the Silver Ferns have ever won the Cup on Australian soil, wrapping up the series with 2 games remaining. Woolwich Marooa coach Daisy Pearce believes young defender Beth Schilling deserves to be in the All-Australian conversation. The 21-year-old a shining light in yesterday's 33-point loss to Geelong, impressing in several contests down back while collecting 17 disposals and 6 marks.
She's a Rising Star nominee, but she's probably in the All-Australian conversation, and today's game, I think, should have done her chances no harm.
The loss all but ending Woolwich's finals hopes ahead of Saturday's season finale against the Swans. Perth Glory's disastrous start to the season has continued, suffering a 2-0 home loss to the Wellington Phoenix. Glory looking disjointed in the distance derby as they conceded goals either side of half-time. The coach admitting he's struggling to settle on his best lineup.
It's that jigsaw puzzle that we're still working on to get a stable lineup and a fit, stable lineup. But once we get the puzzle together and know who's better starting and also who's better coming off the bench when it does, it's going to be a very different energy and a very different side, I think.
Glory remain pointless and bottom of the A-League ladder, conceding 8 goals in their opening 2 games. The Matildas have arrived in Germany ahead of a testing fixture with the soccer powerhouse. But the Aussies think they're in with a big chance, despite coming off a disappointing draw with Switzerland.
Touchdown in Dusseldorf for our Matildas, and this next assignment is a tough one. The reigning Olympic bronze medalists, no less.
I think Germany are a great squad and they had a wonderful result against England last night, so we know the competition will be tough.
While a 1-1 draw with Switzerland wasn't the worst result, the Tillies know they must lift to match it with Germany. But they're preaching patience again as they adjust to life under interim coach Tom Samani.
For us, we're in a bit of a transition period. We've had new coaching staff come in, we've had a few young players come in as well to the squad, so I think for us it's a good start.
Overseas, Man City survived a real scare against cellar dweller Southampton. Super striker Erling Haaland scoring in the opening minutes.
And Manchester City have won the game. Even they will take a 1-0 now and again amid a hectic schedule. Manchester City 1, Southampton 0.
Josh Giddey's Oklahoma City reunion didn't quite go to plan, losing 95-114. But there were smiles at the final buzzer, the Aussie mixing with former teammates.
Even though Josh Giddey is now with the Chicago Bulls, that says it all right there, folks.
And the Dodgers face a nervous wait after their billion-dollar superstar Shohei Ohtani suffered an arm injury in Game 2 of the World Series. His Dodgers taking a 2-0 lead over the Yankees.
The Dodgers hang on for dear life and take a 2-0 lead.
Clint Stanaway, 9 News.
And the Gold Coast 500 turned into a demolition derby with a pile-up in the first lap creating mayhem on the track. Brodie Kostecki eventually prevailing, claiming victory on the second day of racing.
Brodie Kostecki is a superstar with a superb win from end to end.
And Oscar Piastri has endured a forgettable outing in Mexico City. The Aussie a shock elimination after Q1 and will start 17th on the grid in tomorrow's Mexican Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's just a shame that we have to start from the back tomorrow. So we'll try and see what we can do.
Ferrari's Carlos Sainz will start in pole position. Trace, a bit of a disappointing start for our Scorchers at the WACA. Hopefully they can do something better in this next hour.
Fingers crossed. Right, Bonnie, thanks very much. Next, the mobile phone's about to be switched off in a matter of hours. Plus, the new way to protect yourself from dodgy ticket deals as some of the world's best performers head down under. And Natalia, how hot will it get this week?
Tracy, the forecast has changed a little bit. 33 is the warmest it will get. All of those details are coming up very soon.
From tomorrow, tens of thousands of older mobile phones and devices will stop working as Telstra and Optus switch off their 3G network. Australians are being urged to check in on the elderly with concerns people will lose access to 000 services and medical monitoring equipment. The shutdown is designed to boost the speed and reliability of 4G and 5G networks. Australians are being warned of a spike in ticketing scams as international acts head down under. But in a win for consumers, a new avenue for compensation is available for fans who fall victim to fakes. Finance editor Chris Kohler has this exclusive report.
Who wouldn't be interested in a bargain ticket to see Coldplay next week? Or Pearl Jam next month? Or any of the huge acts coming soon? But scammers are flooding digital markets with fake tickets.
And as these criminal grubs do, once they see an opportunity, they dive into it and they exploit everyone they can.
NAB Chief Investigator Chris Sheehan says the average loss for a fake ticket scam is now $1,700.
So what that would suggest is that people are buying tickets for themselves and a couple of their friends, or themselves and their family, which just adds salt to the wound when you think there's a few people missing out for every one of these events.
Major banks will now intercept suspicious payments, calling out red flags like marketplace sales, unfamiliar accounts, heavily discounted prices and payments by crypto or money transfer. And those reminders are working. NAB says $160,000 in ticket purchases have been abandoned before completion in the last 3 months. That means those dodgy ticket sales were stopped. Of course, plenty of Australians are still falling victim to these kinds of scams. Roughly $19 million lost so far this year. But there is good news for some of those people, with the government introducing a new way to claw back some of those losses. A single pathway is being introduced inside the Financial Complaints Authority for victims to seek compensation.
There'll be tough new obligations on businesses, fines and penalties associated with this, and also avenues for redress through the Australian Financial Complaints Authority.
In the meantime, the advice is to only buy tickets through trusted retailers, or risk becoming another statistic.
It's a heartbreak for them, but it's also a real hit to their wallet.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
A warm week ahead, Natalia with the forecast next.
Welcome back. It was a beautiful Sunday in Perth. Plenty of lovely sunshine, and I hope you were able to enjoy it. After a low overnight of 13 degrees, we climbed to a top of 26 around 1:15 this afternoon. Right now in the city, it's still 19.9 degrees. To the charts, and a strengthening ridge lies south of the state, with a high-pressure centre becoming established in the Bight. A trough will develop down the west coast tomorrow, causing temperatures to rise. Across the nation tomorrow, showers, the chance of a storm and 25 in Brisbane, becoming cloudy and 25 in Sydney, partly cloudy and 17 in Melbourne, and 24 the top in Adelaide. Hot in the north of WA, 42 the max in Kununurra and Marble Bar. It will cool down a bit in Port Hedland, 37 the top, and Exmouth heading for 34 degrees. Taking a look further south, Geraldton going for 34 and Jurien Bay 35 degrees. Sunshine and 27 in Bunbury, 24 in Albany and 25 the max in Esperance. On the waters, southeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, tending easterly before dawn, then turning southerly 15 to 20 knots in the middle of the day. Seas to 1.5 metres and swell to 2. A warm and sunny day across the suburbs, 30 at Joondalup, 29 at Swanbourne and Fremantle, and 28 degrees in Rockingham. So a clear night ahead of us, dipping to a mild 16 degrees. Nothing but sunshine tomorrow and a warm top of 32 degrees. Looking further ahead, Tuesday will be a touch warmer, sunny and 33 degrees. Blue skies and 31 on Wednesday. Sunny and 32 on Thursday. Cooling off to 26 on Friday with partly cloudy skies. A possible morning shower, but otherwise partly cloudy, and 24 on Saturday. Next Sunday is looking cloudy with the slight chance of a shower, and 24 again. Nighttime temperatures ranging from 12 to 16 degrees. So it will be a warm week, but not quite as hot as first predicted, Tracy.
I'm loving it though. All right, Natalia, thanks very much. Before we go, here's a quick look at tonight's 60 Minutes.
Thanks, Tracy. Tonight.
I don't think you can wake up one day and
do something that brutal.
The crime that horrified Australia.
It smacks of hate, it smacks of narcissistic anger and rage.
Investigating the hidden past.
He was unhinged, deranged.
Of the monster who killed Lily James.
In Rotting Hill.
Plus, Al Pacino.
That was my debut.
The best in the business.
Man, you're a nutbag. I love it.
That's tonight after the block. Back to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Amelia. That's 9 News this Sunday, the 27th of October. Thanks for your company. For more local news, join us for Today Perth from 6:30 tomorrow morning. From the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.